Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another edition of Hilaal Live. My name is Luqmaan Shadrack, all the way from the Cape Town studios. Thank you for joining us on channel 347 on DSTV. Now, today we have a very special edition of Hilaal Live. We have the privilege of featuring and chatting to the director of the movie FARHA, who's actually premiering and screening in the Cape Town area this week as well. The movie itself has been doing its rounds throughout the world and has had worldwide recognition for the work and also the screening as well. So it's my privilege. First up, I'd like to introduce from the Nelson Mandela Children's Film Festival, Firdaus Babalwa. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name's Firdaus, which means Jannah, Jannatul Firdaus. And Bulbulia, a bulbul is a nightingale, so that's my name.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for coming into studio. And then also the director of the film FARHA, Darin, and the last name again is Sallam. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. And thank you for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. Let's start with Firdaus first. The Nelson Mandela Film Festival, Children's Film Festival, has been going for a number of years as well. And as the founder, how did this all come together?
So just as background, I've worked in the area of children and youth media at least since 1993. Okay. We drew up the Africa Charter on Children's Broadcasting. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, we actually drew up the South African Children's Charter. So as a student activist, I was detained. As a matric student, went to jail, really fighting the system, fighting the politics of South Africa. And I think my political awakening, I was probably 13 years old when the 76 uprisings happened. And I couldn't believe that school children were being killed, were being harassed, people were going into exile. It was quite a shock for me. And if you remember at that time, we really didn't have television. Television came in 75, 76.
Yeah.
So I was listening to this on the radio because the images were blocked out. South Africa didn't know that there was a war happening. And so as a little child listening to the radio and listening to what was happening in Soweto, I lived in Fordsburg, not very far from Soweto, but I schooled in Roodepoort and then schooled in Lenasia. So it's kind of in your neighborhood. And you know that people your age are actually going to jail and are being beaten up. So that was the political awakening for me.
Right.
As I continued in high school, I was always active. My mother always said that big mouth of yours will land you in jail, which it did. And it really, I think for my family, it was a huge shock. As a young Indian girl child in Johannesburg, in South Africa, I was one of the first student activists to be detained. They came at 4 o'clock in the morning, the special branch, knocking on the door, and then said to my parents that they don't know who I am. Sure. I'm this communist, I'm this bad person. Because if you remember, the Freedom Charter was a communist.
Absolutely.
Communist was a document that was banned.
Correct.
And I probably had a copy of the Freedom Charter somewhere. We could not sing Nkosi Sikelel' iAfrika, which really just meant God bless Africa. And that was banned. So it's a long political trajectory.
Right.
I then got involved with the National Children's Rights Committee to draw up the South African Children's Charter. That was a process when we were only 4 provinces, really, the length and breadth of South Africa. And in Cape Town, we have Molo Songololo.
Right.
And Molo actually hosted that event where we brought children from all over the country, including so-called street children. And I say so-called because the kids were saying, but nobody's a street child. You know, every child should have a home. And we know that the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child talks about the right to a name, the right to a home, a right to food. So these were really very important for us. Nice. And working in the sector for a long time, I'm an independent filmmaker producer, but my love and my passion is really still in the children and youth media space.
Brilliant.
So it is in that context that we set up the Nelson Mandela Children's Film Festival.
Stunning.
I chair the Children's Broadcasting Foundation for Africa.
Okay.
And I like to say that Article 4 of the Charter talks about in terms of South African children, because if you remember, SABC only had English and Afrikaans.
Correct.
The rest of the languages were not heard of. South Africa, as you know, during apartheid was English and Afrikaans. So we say Article 4 that children have a right to see themselves on television.
Brilliant.
We are very concerned about the use of language. And as you know, in South Africa, We say we have 11 official languages, but in fact, we really speak 2 languages.
Absolutely.
And here in the Cape, you speak mainly Afrikaans.
Absolutely.
And people forget that quite a few Black South Africans speak Afrikaans.
Absolutely. The introduction of the film FARHA to our audiences, I know it's been widely appreciated as well. How did that connotation and that contribution come together?
I ended up going to the Sharjah International Film Festival for Children, the Children's Film Festival, which is really in the UAE. And that's where I met this wonderful the filmmakers. I sat in a room that was filled. It was filled to capacity. And when I sat at the end of the film, I felt the claustrophobia triggered me as a young student activist in a prison cell. And when I was done, I said to Darin and the team, I was like, oh my God, that was quite a trigger. And I didn't realize it because I'm now 61, and this happened last year, so I was already 60 years old. I was detained when I was 17.
Right.
So suddenly this emotion overtook me, and I said to them, the film has to come to South Africa.
Of course.
And of course, here they are.
Absolutely. Darin, thank you so much once again for coming to South Africa and showcasing this wonderful work. Is this one of your first works?
It's my debut feature, long-length one.
Lovely.
I had 5 short films before, but FARHA always was on my mind since I was a child, actually.
Okay.
But when I became a filmmaker, it was on my mind. I knew that it will be my debut feature, but I didn't know when I'm going to make it. And suddenly, after making my latest short film, I felt that it's FARHA's time.
Right.
And I wrote the first draft, and here we are here screening the film.
So give us a little background about yourself. How did you stumble into the film industry?
Yeah, I always say, like some directors say, that I knew that I want to become a film director since I was a child, and I was crazy about movies. I didn't watch movies, and I still watch a lot of movies, and I never knew that I want to become a film director. I just found myself obsessed about a story, and found myself just making a 2-minute film when I was 18, and that's how I got into this industry. Right. I didn't even care about like being named a director or writer, but then I found myself making movies, and I knew that I was born to make movies. And
Stunning.
Yeah,
Stunning.
That's what I need to do for the rest of my life.
Brilliant. So congratulations, first of all, on the production. I think it's wonderful. I've seen snippets of it, and inshallah, we're going to see the screening tonight as well. The movie itself is very close to your heart and to your family as well. Would you like to tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's based on a true story, inspired by a real character. Her name was Radiya, who shared her story with my mother. She survived the Nakba in Palestine, 1948, and she made it to Syria. She was one of the survivors that Syria, and in Syria she shared the story of her being locked up by her father in a room to protect her life and her honor of some rape incidents that used to happen back then. So she makes it to Syria, and she shared the story with my mother, and my mother shared the story with me when I was a child. And that's why I always feel that because I believe in science, and I believe that this story found me so I can share it with the world, and I felt that I know this character, I know Radiya, I know this girl. I was claustrophobic as a child, so this made me think of her and feel with her and relate. And that's one of the reasons why I kept thinking of her until I became a filmmaker.
Brilliant.
And I felt that I have this urge to tell the whole world about Radiya.
Brilliant. So we're chatting to the team who is about to show the screening right here in Cape Town, the movie FARHA. We're going to go for an ad break. When we come back, we find out a bit more about the movie, about the backstory, but more importantly about the message that needs to be transcended to all the world, basically. You are still watching Hilaal Live. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. Thanks for watching us on channel 347 on DSTV. Now, it's my absolute pleasure to have in studio the director and writer of the movie FARHA, Darin Sallam, and also from the Nelson Mandela Children's Film Festival, Firdaus Balbalwa, who is chatting to us about the great work that they've been doing in and around our beautiful country. Ladies, thanks so much once again for coming into studio. An absolute pleasure having you here. Darin, the work FARHA itself, I mean, the events you have mentioned has been passed down and told to you by your mom as well. What has been the feedback from some other parts of the world with regards to the movie FARHA?
So the film was well received and embraced by people all over the world. Alhamdulillah. I say Alhamdulillah because there are many great movies around the world, but they don't get that
Powerful?
I mean, this amount of attention, because what happened to FARHA was overwhelming in a very beautiful way. So it's an, what you say, educational and entertainment together. It's this. I mean, it's an eye opener to people who don't know about the Nakba of Palestine.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's educating young Jordanians and Palestinians and in the Arab world that don't know about also what happened to our grandparents. Because they, when after the declaration of Israel, the state of Israel, Golda Meir, she was one of the prime ministers, said the old will die and the young will forget. And I always said that I hope with a film like FARHA, the old will die but the young will remember. So basically, it's a dream come true. Alhamdulillah, the film is still traveling around the world.
Okay, what are some of the other countries that you're hoping to take the movie to and hoping to make an impact at the same time?
So other countries, actually, there are countries that I never knew about.
Okay.
that are asking for the film and sending me messages, thanking me for making the film and saying that they feel guilty that they didn't know about this before and they didn't support the Palestinian cause before. So
sure.
So I mean, where the whole world. This is my dream, but it's still happening every day.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we see you at the Oscars very soon.
Inshallah, it was actually the country's, I mean, Jordan selected the film to represent it in the Oscars, but it didn't make it to the final list.
Okay, inshallah, very soon as well. Firdaus, I would imagine the film and TV industry has evolved so much over the last couple of years as well, and you being the forefront of this change as well. Are we noticing a significant increase in young filmmakers?
In young filmmakers, yes, but not in storytelling for children. So I think our concern as the Children and Broadcasting Foundation for Africa is that there is a focus on young people wanting to become filmmakers, but they want to be, you know, the big film, feature film, or the big documentary. They don't really see children's content as an area that they want to explore. And this is really disappointing because, you know, the countries that make the best programs for children are the Scandinavians, the Dutch, even the Germans. So I think what we have been trying to do, and this is the same song we're preaching for the last 30 years, is for us to look at what Hollywood is doing with children's content. And I think Netflix now had a whole series on African animations, which was great because that again propels people to understand that children's content is important, but also that children are not just about animation. And that's why FARHA was so important to me, because it was this girl child, a 14-year-old, and as I said earlier, thinking about the South African context of 13-year-olds changing the history of our country, this 14-year-old girl child, and that the focus was on the girl child was important. And I'm hoping that through this film, it would inspire, because they were today at EFTA and they were at the Wits Film School, that they would inspire young filmmakers to look at difficult topics, and as Darin is saying, in an edutainment way, where we are educating and entertaining, but how do we deal with these issues in a storytelling, in a visual language, because that's also some of the challenges. And I think today's conversation was interesting because people were saying, I think you said, how many words were there, how much dialogue was there, opposed to picture and sound.
Exactly. I mean, I hate dialogue. I hate using it unless it's really important, like needed. And in the whole film, it's an hour and a half. There's only 18 minutes of dialogue in the film. Because visuals speak.
Of course.
But also, for those, I want to mention that why it's important to talk about children and to make films about children, because this age, teenagers specifically, is a very sensitive age. They're raw, they're vulnerable, it's a very, very difficult time for them. So feeling and seeing like themselves, children being presented in cinema, makes them feel that they're seen, they're felt, and it makes a difference.
Have you had children of that age group that have seen the movie come up to you and say, I'm inspired, I want to do more, tell me more?
Yes, the casting journey was very long because I really wanted FARHA to be
Right.
like most of the film happens in this room, and most of the time the camera is on her. So I wanted someone who's very people can love her and want to stay with her. And so while casting, I asked all the girls that I like, do you know anything about Palestine, Nakba? And most of them didn't know about Nakba. And to me, that was very disappointing. And these girls that I casted later on, after the film was out, they watched the film and they sent me, Darin, now we know what's Nakba.
Stunning.
So
you've inspired them to actually go and research and learn more.
yeah, and they
Stunning.
ask also for new opportunities if they want to act. And they said, okay, please involve us in anything you do, because they felt they want to inspire other children.
What's in store for Darin Sallam over the next couple of months and couple of years? Beside the movie FARHA, do you have any other projects that you
Yes.
would like to work on?
I'm writing now a new film, and we also have a show. It's still too early to share because
Sure.
it's still cooking in the writing and development. But yes, I'm working on 2 projects so far, and
Brilliant.
hopefully in the coming couple of years,
Will we
something
be
will
seeing
out.
it in South Africa?
Inshallah,
Inshallah.
after this trip,
Definitely.
after this experience,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
sure
Yes.
I'd love to.
Fantastic. The Nelson Mandela Film Festival is obviously has grown in leaps and bounds as well. What's in store over the next couple of years? Where do we take our current projects, and what's in store for our South African audience?
I think early on, I just wanted to say that the Africa Charter on Children's Broadcasting says children should hear, see, and express themselves, their languages, and their life's experiences through the electronic media that reaffirms their sense of self, community, and place.
Right.
And if we can have that materialize, if we can have young people telling stories, this is important, but also that older people who are already, filmmakers and well established, realizing how important it is. Because I think what Darin says, when we talk about the fact that children are pliable, it is at this age that you can manipulate, that you can encourage, that, where propaganda in a bad sense can come in, but also where you can do something very positive.
Absolutely.
Because through film, through image, through storytelling, you can really change their world. And for us to understand the sensitivity around young people. As I said, I was impacted at the age of 13. I'm sure, Darin, you were impacted as you say, as a young person, because your mom kept telling you the story, you kept going with the story. So we can change the world through children.
Inshallah.
And I think that is where the focus needs to be. So for us as the Nelson Mandela Children's Film Festival, we would like to see more people looking at children's stories. We also want to look at collaboration. How can we work together? And possibly, I think in the sense of storytelling is to listen to the child.
I think you hit it on the head there. That's exactly what we need as well. Darin, were you very surprised at the support that the South African public show to Palestine?
Yes, actually, I was surprised in a very good way, and still, my friends in Jordan are asking me how was it was amazing, because I mean, it's just amazing. This is the first time I meet people from here, and I really want to stay more.
Oh, you're welcome.
my
You're welcome to
They went
absolutely
to the wall today,
Oh,
so
lovely.
they went down
Yeah.
to, in
Okay.
Salt River, which was
Okay,
important
stunning.
to
Absolutely.
understand and see that.
Yeah.
It's
the wall.
very, very amazing. And
Stunning. Well,
and
we live in the most beautiful city in the world, I can tell you that.
They've been to the penguins.
And you saw the penguins. Well done. What is your message to up-and-coming filmmakers and the people that want to share a story, a vision, a message?
I want to tell you, I'll tell you now, but I want to mention that I just realized now while talking that all my films, my short films, my 5 short films, and FARHA, all of them have children.
Brilliant.
And I just realized that the reason why I always say what you said now, Firdaus, that children are raw material, and you can shape them the way you want, and you can.
100%.
And it's because it's very difficult working with children. But I just realized even in FARHA, when the audience, the teenagers were sitting, some parents told us this is the first time they sit for an hour and a half and watch, because now everything is fast.
Yes.
Videos on TikTok, on social media, everything is fast. They don't wait, they're bored easily. So that's something that I just noticed, I realized.
Brilliant.
My message to people who want to make films is that you shouldn't wait for an opportunity or wait for things to happen for you. You have to work and make things happen.
Stunning.
And as one of the students today asked me, remember, he asked me, was there a moment where you felt that I need to give up because this is too much, and maybe I'm like, it's too much for me, and this is too big for me? And I answered that no, as long as you believe in what you're doing, and you have faith in what you're doing, what you're saying, you are sincere and you're well-intentioned. God, because I believe there's a protection from.
Absolutely.
I believe that you will reach to wherever you want.
Inshallah.
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 It's the passion,
Ladies,
I think.
it's absolutely. It's Women's Month in South Africa and some parts of the world as well. You are both truly inspirational women. Keep doing what you do, and may all your future projects go from strength to strength, inshallah.
Thank you. Amin.
Thank you for coming into studio, and all the very best.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Wa alaikum salam.
And that's the wonderful people that are responsible for the movie FARHA, who's going to be screened right here in Cape Town as well. Do go and check it out. It is on Netflix. You're welcome to view it and let us know your thoughts as well. That's all that after the break, on Hilaal Live, we will be featuring a very important organization that does amazing, amazing work. You're tuned to Hilaal Live.